Alright everyone, let's talk about Halo Combat Evolved. As of this recording, it's been about a month after the release of Combat Evolved on the PC through the Master Chief Collection, and to avoid beating around the bush, my disappointment is immeasurable. I'll explain. For nearly 2 decades, Halo has been on PC thanks to the work of Gearbox back when they were still a small studio porting bigger titles. However, they caused many problems with their port of Halo Combat Evolved that ruined many aspects about the game. Problems such as ruined textures, missing fog, wrong lighting effects, misplaced shaders, incorrect character models, a bad FOV setting that can only be fixed through mods, requiring a patch to even run the game on Windows 10, and the fact it's only sold physically. Now there are ways around this, but not conveniently. Now you would think, all that being said, the new MCC port of Halo CE would be a shining beacon for us Halo CE players that would have been stuck playing and modding an inferior version of the game. Right? Right? Wrong. Here's the problem. Halo Anniversary, the version of Combat Evolved inside the Master Chief Collection, was built off the old PC port version of the game, meaning any problems that were found in the buggy PC port can be found inside Anniversary, or most of which can be found. There have been mods fixing many of the issues that were found on the Custom Edition that deal with the fact that it's just an older game running on newer systems, but most of which are also in-game problems that weren't even fixed in the Anniversary version. Now, granted, a lot of technical issues have been fixed with the MCC port, but a lot of the blatant issues that came from the porting still plagues the newer version. Moreover, there have been additional problems that come with the MCC port of the game. This is how the Warhog should be turning. This is how it performs. And this is not exclusive to mouse and keyboard, because if you play the Gearbox port, the controller functions just like this. So, with all that being said, the problem that needs to be recognized here is the fact that the version of Combat Evolved that was added to PC with MCC has many of these problems that have plagued on the original version, many of which have to be fixed with mods. The community was kinda hoping that we didn't have to fix these again for a new iteration of the port, but here we are. Not only this, but new problems have surfaced on the MCC version of the game that have to be addressed as well. So at this point, you kinda have to be asking yourself, which version should I really be playing in the first place? Instead of splitting the fanbase between 2 versions, many had hoped 343's port would create the best of both worlds, so we would actually have a masterpiece finally restored after nearly 2 decades of the game being in a state that was not near the original version of it on the OG Xbox. With both versions of the game being faulty in their own manner, this creates a dilemma for the player in which neither option is seemingly the superior version all around, forcing players between a rock and a hard place. Where Custom Edition suffers from its terrible netcode and multiplayer, MCC single player suffers from an AI weapon spread that's too accurate, which leads to the player dying faster on legendaries than intended. But on the other hand, Custom Edition is not very technically optimized without the help of mods such as not having a borderless window mode, or any sort of convenient window mode at all, or even a field of view slider. Then again, MCC has sound bugs like the plasma pistol overcharge sound when firing the pistol too fast. Which, by the way, is ear-deafening and has been on the MCC since its launch in 2014. Can we get a fix for that? That's kind of an important fix. And come to think of it, Custom Edition has a server browser to help you find a specific game, which includes mods. Oh yeah, it also has a 17+ year catalog of mods that aren't converted to MCC yet. But MCC has better multiplayer connection. You see the problem here? None of these versions are currently the better version to play. They both suffer from different problems, and yet, at the same time, none of them are even the right version of the game in the first place. Remember from the beginning of the video when I stated that Gearbox poured the wrong shaders and assets of the game to create Custom Edition for the PC version, and when 343 and Saber Interactive remastered the game in 2011, they used Custom Edition as their base model. So, to this day, not a single version of the game is the correct version of the game unless you go back and play on the original Xbox. None of these companies have done this game justice it deserved back in 2002 when ported the first time. This game is a masterpiece and redefined the FPS genre, and yet every port of it has added more issues on top of the last. As an example, check out how the sounds were changed from the Gearbox port into MCC. And here's more examples of the sound being changed.
But one interesting point of that port was the ability to have higher quality sound than the original Xbox via usage of hardware EAX support.
John Hula Hoop, we're not gonna let them have it. What we will let them have is a belly full of lead and a pool of their own blood to drown in. Have it. What we will let them have is a belly full of lead and a pool of their own blood to drown in. What we will let them have is a belly full of lead and a pool of their own blood to drown in. John Hula Hoop, we're not gonna let them have it. What we will let them have is a belly full of lead and a pool of their own blood to drown in.
Notice how his voice is less muffled on the PC version with EAX, and how you can actually hear sounds in the background as he talks, like the warthog passing by. These differences manifest throughout the entire campaign as more ambience is added into the game sounds with more channels that can layer. Listening to the Master Chief Collection, I could tell that the quality of the sound was a bit different, and it seems lower.
So, instead of respecting the legacy as it's been put, we've now created a Frankenstein of a game that doesn't even resemble the original version. And I haven't even gone through all the issues yet. Let's talk graphically. As discussed earlier, when Gearbox ported the game, they changed a good portion of the shaders within the game. Here you can see a perfect example of this. One of the shader effects that was ruined through the PC port by implementing a shader in the wrong way. Not only does this still appear like this in the Anniversary version that was ported from PC, but you can even see when Saber Interactive was working on the Anniversary graphics. It was clearly inspired from the wrong version. This problem has also been translated into gameplay when looking at the Jackal shields. The Jackal shield loses its original effect, leaving their shield to be less opaque and more translucent in design. The shield no longer turns red when shooting at it, meaning feedback for the player's input has been lost. The same thing goes for the portable shield placed in certain maps. You will never know when the shield is about to go down when receiving too much fire. This is a gameplay problem. This should have been fixed on day one. This can also be seen inside of cutscenes, such as Cortana not changing colors in the control room. Oh yeah, Cortana changed colors in the control room, by the way. Shader effects aside, let's talk about the fact that Gearbox used the wrong character models for the game. The ported version of Captain Keyes that Gearbox decided to use was a version that was unfinished in a lower resolution version that was actually used in the final product on the original Xbox. Here on the original Xbox, you can see the Captain Keyes that was used has a more polished jacket, as well as a more defined face. However, any version after the OG Xbox version uses the lower resolution of Captain Keyes. The same thing goes for Master Chief as well. Notice here he has a lot more of a stone look to him, whereas all other versions he's a lot more shinier. Not nearly as bad as Captain Keyes, but it's still not the right version that Bungie used for the game that they released in 2001. However, Gearbox was kind enough to leave Chief's armor inside the cryopod. Sticking with the theme of visuals, let's talk frame rate. This one is bad. I'll try to explain this one very simply. When Bungie was creating the game, they animated everything at 30 FPS. So, when you play future versions of the game at a higher frame rate, things become a lot more jittery. In this cutscene, you'll notice as Captain Keyes moves, he'll move back and forth very rapidly as the animation is trying to compensate for the double frame rate, leaving this ghosting effect. You can also see this in the beginning of the Silent Cartographer mission with the Pelicans first coming in. This goes into gameplay as well as the projectiles from any plasma weapon that is fired. Notice the projectiles as they jitter a lot more than what they're intended to. Using interpolation, you can see a lot more smoother effect for the plasma. This also applies for the cameras inside of vehicles. Notice the first person camera for the Warthog's passenger seat becomes very nauseating to look at. Although the Chimera mod has fixed this issue inside of Custom Edition to unlock the frame rate on all of these issues have surprisingly not been addressed on MCC version of the game. And mind you, the Xbox One version has always played at 60 FPS, meaning these problems have persisted on MCC since the launch in 2014. On top of that, Custom Edition still has features that Anniversary does not, such as a server browser, which not only allows you to manually find games not just restricted to people on your friends list, but also gives you access to modded maps without the mess of mods and matchmaking. In fact, mods made by the community is what made Halo PC thrive for years, even though the game is nearly 2 decades old. Examples like the single-player version 3 mod, or more well known as SPV3, that completely overhauls the campaign in Halo Combat Evolved by adding weapons and enemies from other Halo games as well as brand new ideas. Brand new campaigns have been created as well, such as Project Lumeria or even the Flood campaign. And I get it, MCC has an anti-cheat mode that allows you to play with mods without affecting matchmaking, but Custom Edition has plenty of custom multiplayer maps as well, hence the server browser. So after all of this, you have to ask yourself, why? Why do they put another version of the game onto the same platform that for every good side has another downside? And I get that MCC, it was inevitable that Halo CE would be coming, but the whole reason they are porting these games over time onto the PC one by one is to make sure they get it right. But right now, nearly a full year after the announcement of MCC coming to PC, we're just getting Halo Combat Evolved. And even with this long period of time, it's still not delivered fully on its promise. In fact, it's fairly lackluster in presentation and only raises new concerns while surfacing its problems. When are we finally going to get the real version of Halo Combat Evolved? When are we going to get Halo Combat Evolved the way it was back in 2001, the right way, the real version of Combat Evolved? It's 2020 and this game made in the late 90s is still not ported properly today. And let me make this clear. For those of you who were excited for Halo El Dorado, or aka Halo Online, which was a massive version of Halo 3, if you're excited for this premise or any ideas to be implemented to Halo 3 when it launched on PC for MCC, then take another look at Halo CE's porting process, and if Halo Reach has anything to say from its sound effect issues as well as many other issues that still plague it since December, then I don't know when to expect any of these fixes to take place for Halo CE. It took them 3 years just to fix Halo Master Chief Collection from its launch. So hopefully, it won't take the same amount of time just to fix this game, or another decade for Halo CE to finally be restored. And I understand I'm ending this on a rather sour note, but Halo CE is my favorite game, and I've been playing it and modding it for years and years, as well as thousands of other players. A new mod was even released for Halo Custom Edition, and that video has millions of views. And my channel also picked up traction because of a mod of a game made in 2001. People are still interested in Halo CE, and that has a lot to say. If the outcome is that substantial for the player base, then you would think that 343 would at least recognize or take the time to realize that we do want this game fixed. It's been almost 2 decades. 343 listens, as it's been said many times, and writes about it in their blog posts. But blog posts will never outweigh the results. If 343 are really looking to get some mad cred with the community, then this right here is where they should start.
Hey you, come here. Like what you saw here today? Well, that's good, there's a lot more where that came from. Be sure to subscribe to Halfpint today and you'll get a lot more where that came from. Oh yeah, you'll get the good hookup, the good stuff, that's what we're talking about. Or we can do this the hard way. We're doing this the hard way? Well, we can do this the hard way. Here we go. Ba-bam! Yeah, that's right. We're doing this the hard way. You're gonna be sleeping with the fishes tonight. Yeah, so hit that subscribe button or otherwise, best if you're one-eyed open. Ta-ta.